So here's a bonus extra footage. So I'm going to measure the voltage that is at the moment across the battery, which I have now taken out. And if you take a look at the battery, you can see a date code that is 10/5/2011. So it's 6 years old, and that explains why it is not listed anymore in any of the websites. So I'm going to measure the voltage across the two terminals where the battery was connected, and I'm going to crank this thing and see how much is the charging voltage. And after that, let's measure the voltage that is across the LED and the voltage that is across the dynamo terminals. So I'm now connected to around 20 volts range here, and I'm going to crank it off the camera because I need some space to crank this thing. So watch the screen. Okay, so at full power it can reach even 6.5 volts, normally around 6 volts, but I think that will drop because now there is no battery or any load attached to the terminal. So the open circuit voltage is around 6 volts. Under load it is going to get reduced depending on how much charge is left in the battery. So that is now done. Let's see how much is the charging current. So for that I'm going to change it to 200 milliamps, and now I'm going to crank it again and let's measure the current. Okay, so it's overload, and at the moment I can actually feel the resistance at here. So I'm going to I'm now plugged into 10 amps range, and let's see. I'm going to crank it around 300 milliamps. So this thing can generate, the terminals can generate, I mean not the terminal, the generator can produce up to 6 volts around 300 milliamps, and I can actually feel the tension, I can actually feel the drag on my handle when I'm turning this thing. So that is that done. Now let me change back to voltage, and now I'm going to measure the voltage that is across the LED. And the interesting thing about the LED is that now when I remove the battery, it no longer works with the cranking alone. I'm guessing that is the negative. Yeah, that is. So without the battery, the LED will not work. You may probably see that, and I'm going to let me try to crank it in the video, and yeah, I think that is okay. So now you can see both the LED and the oops, let me crank it away. Okay, I'm going to give the full power. So as you can see, without the battery attached, the voltage across it doesn't even reach 1 volt. So that explains why the LED is not lighting up just with the cranking power. But I doubt that is because of the presence of this chip over here, because if the dynamo can produce 6 volts at 300 milliamps, that is more than enough to light this LED with full brightness. But I'm thinking because of all the electronics, active electronics involved, and because of the presence of the switch is why the LED is not working even this thing is at full power. And I'm feeling no drag at all. It's fully relaxed at the moment when I'm turning it. So that is two things done. Now I'm going to measure the voltage that is across the dynamo terminal, and I already broke one of the terminals. So let's do one thing, let's remove all of them. That's it. And now let me clean it and I will be back. Okay, so now I have trimmed the wires. Now let's plug this in directly at the dynamo and see what it can do. So I'm going to crank it, and I'm only connected to 2 of the terminals at the moment. I'm going to crank it You can watch the screen. Nothing. Let me check the connection again. Connection seems to be fine. Oh, maybe okay. Okay, now it should work. Okay, so the dynamo itself, it was my fault. I forgot to change it to AC. The dynamo itself is capable of producing up to 9 volts across these two terminals. Now let me swap the terminals and see if there is any difference. Now on connected to other terminal, and that is also generating around 9 volts. So yeah, that's it. We now know what are the voltages across each different terminals also. So that concludes it. That concludes the entire decathlon made torch. Thanks for watching. See you in another video, and you can watch the first video of this by clicking the I button up here.